All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Hillary. I am the social media manager for Reptile Systems here in the US, and we have some special guests. This is another one of our podcasts. We are not in the UK, but we're in France. So the last time we did one of these, it's been a little while, but you guys were kind of in transition and wrapping things up over in the UK. But obviously now you're in France. We've got a whole new a whole new space. I don't want to say a whole new enclosure. You got a whole bunch of new enclosures in a new space for them.
Yeah, so we basically built a brand new reptile room here in France. Just to kind of give you the background, we had a reptile facility in the UK that we didn't own the building. In France, we own the building and we own the land. And with the economics of the system, it actually makes sense to expand the building in France and build a brand new reptile facility, testing station, laboratory, feeding program,
whatever,
education centre,
science going on. Lots of science going on.
So yeah, we built a brand new facility in France on the back of the parent company ASF, Aquarium Systems. So yeah, we've got a brand new facility which has been built for us, and we moved in, a couple of months back.
And the good thing about coming here as well, because we actually own the building, we own land, they've actually built us a bespoke state-of-the-art unit to our specifications as well. So we've got lots and lots of space, and it's really, really nice. And it also gives us, in the future, if we want to expand it even further, which we probably will, so we can get more animals and more product and do more testing, then it puts us in good stead for the future as well.
Yeah, just to give you an idea on the testing, it's something from animal welfare point of view that we take very seriously. We were restricted on size in the UK. We had about 140 test bays, and right now we have 212 in France, with potential to go even further, but we haven't even filled the space. So we've got more than we need, more than we probably could ever do, but it gives us a better area to do long-term testing of products as well as batch testing. Whereas sometimes in the UK, we had to take some of the long-term testing off to do the batch testing before they go on into the open market. And then we put the long-term testing back in, which, a batch testing can take between 1 and 2 weeks. So it kind of it sometimes ruin the long-term test because you have to make a note that these came off test. And so now we have a dedicated space to long-term testing. So that's minimum of 1 year. And then we have a space over 100 to do batch testing. So if we bring out a new batch of mercury vapors, we can take a specified amount of that wattage, maybe 24 lamps from different pallets or different boxes, but 24 just 100 watt on test. Make sure the UVI is what we say on the box, and as long as that works after normally 100 to 200 hours of burn, then we can kind of release the goods into the market without disrupting any of the long-term testing facilities. So it gives us that huge scope and more.
And because we obviously test multi-voltage products as well, this allowed us to increase our 110 volt testing, which obviously is very important for the US and Australia and other countries as well. So we've managed to bring that up to quite a high level as well, especially now we've got lots of new products coming out in all different countries as well. So we need to make sure that all these new products are all fantastic and all the voltages. So so that's good for us. It's given us scope to actually increase what we're doing. And we've also bought some new gadgets as well. So we're doing different types of testing as well.
Yeah, we've upgraded on the move. We've upgraded the different types of meters we've got. We've spent some money, sometimes too much, but
it's not our money. We don't care.
we don't write the budget, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But it allows us to do a lot more in-depth testing. Yes, lighting UV is one side, but infrared, which is the heat end of the spectrum, that's a bit more tricky to test with handheld meters. So, we've invested a bit of money into making sure that there's 3 channels for reptile lighting. You've got UV, the visible light, and then the infrared. So now we can cover all 3 channels for every single product we've got and others to make sure that we're all on the same and to see where we are. And then we use those products and we use that testing equipment on our animals and on our own enclosures to make sure that we're still doing the right thing and everything is good. So
the more in-house testing we do is better for us. So we don't have to rely so much on external companies as well to do more of the delicate testing for the different frequencies and wavelengths and stuff. So we can do more and more in-house as well now, which once it's under our control, we feel much happier with the results as well.
Yeah, controlling your own destiny of product in terms of production, in terms of manufacturing. It's kind of where you're not dictated to by anybody else. So it's quite important for us. And that goes on to our aquatic facility. You know, we are a manufacturer of salt. We are a manufacturer of liquids and bacteria, and we, in the last year or so, we've also brought a production facility in Italy. So we now make our own pumps and filters and DC pumps. So bringing everything in-house to our own, the destiny lies with us. We're not dictated to by other countries or the companies to kind of say, this is what you need. We do it ourselves. So it's been a big turning point, but it's took 6 months, I would say, to move the reptile room from when we started taking it down in the UK. You know, with animals, you can't rush them. You're moving them. Yeah, we had to move them by ourselves.
Yeah, it wasn't all plain sailing. There was some ups and downs, most definitely.
But zero losses, absolutely zero losses. So that's the main thing.
We didn't even lose any, like not even a tetra, nothing. It was quite amazing. Really.
Which I personally, I didn't think we would succeed. So with fish, as you well know, moving fish is about water quality, oxygen, you get the ammonia spikes. So fish is one complication, but reptiles is another complication, because although, yes, they can be without maybe light and UV for a day while we're moving, but heat, that's something that they really can't be without. And trying to put things in the back of vans with power generators to provide heat and blankets and heat packs. And it was, we got stopped at customs and we was asked some strange questions, you can imagine.
I can only imagine.
But it worked.
It was good.
But at one stage, they x-rayed the van we brought over to make sure there was no, I don't know, maybe drugs or people in the back of the van. Yeah. But I'd like to have seen the x-rays of all the skeletons of all the animals in the back. But that could have been interesting.
That'd be quite cool, yeah.
But no, we managed it. We set it all up exactly how we had it in the UK. And then so once we knew all the animals were okay and switched on and being looked after again, we then sort of developed the room and built the enclosures, upgraded some of the enclosures because they were a couple of years old, upgraded the equipment, and that's kind of where we are today, really. So yeah, it's been an interesting 6 months.
It's been a very interesting 6 months. And the other thing as well, because we've got more space, obviously it's given us the facility to actually build some more enclosures as well, because you can't have too many animals, the way I see it. So we're pushing ahead with that.
Yeah. I think Hillary's definitely on the same page.
I tried to get a cow last night. My husband's like, no cows.
I'm sorry, you tried to get a cow. We haven't gone that far.
I still want them little Dexter ones. They're cute. They're tiny.
Do they need UV cows? I'm sure they must need UV.
Right?
I'm sure they do.
We could tie it in. I'm sure we could tie it in. But and obviously we have to adhere to French rules as well, French customs and French government licensing. Animals, some of the animals we had in the UK, we can't have in France due to the legal ramifications. One of them, you may know, was the Temric. So we couldn't unfortunately bring those into France because they're not allowed. They're classed as a native species. Not in France, it's too cold, but in the French Polynesian islands, it's Madagascar French and that kind of thing. So anything that's covered under a French territory is still governed by French law. So although they're not native to France, because they're native in one of the French-owned countries, it means we couldn't bring the Temric. So Peter has some Temrics in his house, and I have some Temrics in my house.
So we're winning. We're winning all the way along. It's all good.
Yeah, my children are falling in love with the Temric, which I said would never happen, but it's happened. So yes. So someone's won and someone's lost, I'm sure.
As long as you do the grumpy dad thing, like no more animals.
But my children have definitely fallen in love with their new house pets. So Yeah, it's all good. So no, we've got some new species, and
Ooh.
there's definitely some scope. We're still building,
Yeah,
which we'll
there
show you in a
is-
second.
There is a lot for the future, like a huge amount for the future.
So yeah, it's been
Much.
it's been very interesting. It's allowed us to develop a few products a bit quicker as well. COVID slowed things down, so it's allowed us to pick up the pace. And the gold infrared lamp, for example, that we launched in the US only a couple of weeks ago, it launched in Europe at the same time.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's allowed us to set up video booths to be able to kind of do more videos and more presentations. It's allowed us to have the products on show, so we can use it in with the animals, and we can show that in a second. So yeah, it's definitely, the move has allowed us to do so much more. So
Yeah.
you would say, why didn't we do it in the beginning? But in the beginning, we reside in the UK, so it makes sense to have the facility with us. At the moment, we now have a French team of people that we've trained up to look after the animals. And then Peter and I travel between 1 and 2 weeks on a rotation. So we're over here most of the time, either together or separately, to sort of maintain and make sure everything's being looked after the way we want it. And then in between, when we're not here, because I'm in the US or Peter's at different shows, then we have now a French team in place with some great staff that are
really good.
they're animal keepers first. That was the main thing. They are hobbyists first. So they're already passionate. They're already excited. And then we've educated them and trained them to look after the animals and nutrition in terms of maintenance and that sort of thing. And yeah, they're kind of taken over.
Yeah, they've been
the
really good.
day-to-day maintenance, which is, yeah, it's really helped us. Really helped us. So should I give you a quick tour around the
Yes.
room?
Please do.
Okay, right. I was going to take you off the
Yeah, you got this.
off the stand. I was going to turn the camera. How do I turn the camera?
Ooh.
There we go. Right. So this is the enclosure that we had in the UK. This is one of the originals.
Yeah, one of the original enclosures.
So you can't see. Oh, there's one down there.
His head buried.
And what have we got in here, Pete?
These are Exantic blue-tongue skinks. They're from Palmyra Island. So they are quite interesting. When we had them in the UK, they wasn't as active as they are here. Since we've upgraded all the equipment, although it doesn't look like it now, they are really, really active, and they're eating really well.
So I must say that in France right now it's 6:30 in the evening, and all the lights technically should have gone off, but we've overloaded the timers so we can do this.
Quite interesting you say that, because these guys have gone to bed. It's bedtime for them. But what is interesting is in the next enclosure, I think, because someone who thinks it's nighttime, even though the lights are on, has just woken up as well. And she is not happy.
I'll show you. So in here we have this is the gold infrared, and then behind that is the Eco T5 unit, which is zone 3. So it's providing the right amount of light and UV for these zone 3 animals. So the next enclosure is what Peter was referring to. This is our zone 1 enclosure. And just there, who's not normally out.
No, our lady leopard gecko, Chunky. She's normally, it's time to get up. All the lights should be off. So her body clock must be all over the place now, wondering what's going on.
So this zone 1 enclosure has, I'll show you on the top there. What we've got is we've got the medium black dome. It's very hot, so I'm going to be careful.
Yeah.
With a ceramic heater inside. We have the new Dawn Pro 10 providing the visible light. And then underneath the mesh is the Eco T5 unit. So this is the interesting thing about the Eco T5 unit Gen 2, is that the fixtures allow to be screwed inside a wooden enclosure like this one, which is at the back over there. It allows to go above the mesh, or you can put it below the mesh. So what that means, there we go. So the first one, I'll just get the LEDs away. There we go. Turn that one, you can see a bit better. So just there is the Eco T5 unit mounted below the mesh.
Yes.
Now what that means is that the enclosure is now getting 40% more UV than if it was above the mesh, because the mesh removes that much UV. And there is There she is.
Oh,
She's not happy because the light should be
No.
off.
don't
Bless.
talk to me. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I have one of these units on my bearded dragon enclosure. And when I first got it, so the instructions on the packaging, it's really fantastic because there's all of the measurements for like, you're supposed to measure like how tall your enclosure is, and you can figure out where you want to put it and how high it needs to be. But you can also, like you said, put it on top or underneath inside.
Yeah, so we normally say that if you're the distance we put on the box are the distance between lamp to animal. That's the main thing to think about is lamp to animal distance. If your basking distance is 15 inches, then on the back of the box it'll tell you what the UVI you will get on a zone 3 product 15 inches from your animal. So then you just work out whether you need to make it 12 inches, 15 inches, 18 inches. So it gives very, very clear instructions. The one thing that we did in France that I should just stand back and show you is we actually put all of the enclosures on the same height cabinets all the way down. Whereas in the UK, they were all individually kind of mounted. So now it's the same height enclosures on this kind of bespoke cabinet all the way across the bottom. And we put some different, you got some plants in that one with a new dawn over it, growing some plants. This one's got some T5 lights, growing some plants over this one. So yeah, it just looks so much neater. This is a plant display that we set up.
I think this is our original plant display. This is 5.5 years old.
Yeah, so this is using New Dawn again over the top, and this is just growing plants. There's no animals in here. This is purely just a plant enclosure. Then we've got the day gecko. This is a zone 3 animal.
Yep.
And he's just on the glass. If I can get the camera down there. There he is. Hi, boy.
Hey, buddy.
Normally out running around, causing us mayhem, thinking he's escaped every time. But again, we've got the two. We've got the large dome, the large black clamp lamp, and the medium black clamp lamp. One has got the New Dawn spot in there for the plant growth. One's got the heater.
Yeah,
we are. So a ceramic heater in there for him, and then you've also got the. That's got the compact for the UV, and then the New Dawn is mounted
inside
the enclosure. So then next to it we have some frogs.
So we've got White's tree frogs in this one. Again, they are just getting ready to get up, and they will be boinging around all over the place.
Are
So
these
these
the
are the
little
guys-
ones?
No, so these are the parents.
Oh, okay.
So these are the parents that the tadpoles came from, that we grew the tadpoles. Oh, there they are at the back.
Just getting ready to wake up. They will be putting little sticky footprints all over the place at the moment.
These are the ones where we have to clean the vivarium doors like every day. So these are the parents. We got the tadpoles on maybe 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And we grew the tadpoles, and we grew the tadpoles into small frogs. We kept the small frogs for 3 months.
Yeah.
About 3 months.
About 3 months.
And then we traded we had about 45, was it, in the end?
Yes. Yeah.
45 baby frogs that we got from them, and we basically gifted them to a local store, and in exchange he exchanged them for some animals to add into our enclosures, into the new enclosures, which I'll show you in a second.
Yeah, we had a really high success rate with the spawn as well. It was about 90%, which is practically
Wow.
unheard of. Yeah, it was really, really high.
I can tell you when they bred. Day 2 of being in France.
Was they too? The French air.
The romantic French love air. They made lots of noise, and all of a sudden there was a huge pile of frog spawn. And at that time, when we left to go back home, because we have to go home occasionally, we had no one to look after them. So I took them back to my house.
That's right.
And then brought them back 2 weeks later.
And then I did the same thing. Yeah, so they've been to your house and my house.
Oh, well travelled. So even taking the frog, this was sort of 1 week old tadpoles to the UK.
Yeah.
Back to France, back to the UK, back to France. Oh, we showed some love and care for these guys, so we should have got a good success rate. Right, so I want to show you this as well over the top of these 2 enclosures. These are Eco T5 units. This is the Zone 1 8 watt. So it's 12 inches long. And this is one way that you can link it. So obviously this is just resting on top of the mesh. But what you can do, so coming out of this end is the power cord. And then coming out of this end is the daisy chain to link it to this one. So one plug. So yeah, one plug. So I can show you that this, if I just move that to there, if I do that, that cable there joins the two units together.
Okay.
So one plug. So when you've got two enclosures sat next to each other, instead of having the spaghetti jungle of having all the cables down the back of your bibs, you can actually have one plug. So you can put that on a very simple sort of analog timer to go into the main unit. And then you take a daisy chain from here into this unit. And on the 8 watt, you can actually link, in the US, you can link 10 of these together.
10 of them.
Yeah. As they go up in wattage, it does reduce. So the 24 watt version, which is 2 foot, you can link 6 together. The 39 3 foot and the 54 watt 4 foot, you can link 4 together. It's all to do with the amount of wattage going through the ballasts. So it's, yeah, if you've got, so this one that we did over the Leopard Gecko, over the Zone 1, this is the 2 foot unit. So we can link 6 of these together. So it just takes away all that spaghetti junction of all your cables. And then you can put it on a timer, knowing that all your vivs are going to come on at the same time. Or even if you've got a very large enclosure, you could actually have 2 3 foots, positioned at different levels or different places inside your enclosure as well. That will be daisy chained together, all running on one plug. This is the T5 light. So this is the 8 watt, 12 inch T5 Zone 1 going into a exact same unit on the other side. So 2 enclosures, but running on one plug.
And another point worth mentioning as well is that you don't have to use the same wattage ones to link together. So you could link an 8 watt to a 24 watt to a 39 watt.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be the same. So you can kind of mix and match them to fit the size of your enclosure.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep. Sounds like I just need to get another bearded dragon.
That's exactly what it means.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
Just buy more.
Yeah.
Bearded dragon, chameleon. I'll have them all. Give me time.
So this is one of the new additions that we kind of brought, which is the snake rack. So we have there's an albino garter snake in here, and she is
face sticking out there.
Maybe just in that
look
little
how cute.
down there. So the snake racks are they're not really designed for the hobbyist, they're designed for the breeder. But we make heat strips. So the idea is you put your snake in these drawers, and then the drawers close again. And then underneath there on here, you would put a heat strip, and that would provide the heat for the snake. So what we did is we've got this one. There we go. We've got this snake rack purposely to show off and use the heat strips and heat mats that we've got to show that they can be used on such a device.
Yeah, and you can also use the heat cables as well.
Yeah, heat cables can be used. So then we've also got the aquaponic unit, which we had in the UK. So this is the future of aquatic husbandry. I mean, it really is. You've got the fish down there making waste. That gets their dirty water from their poo, gets sent up, and it goes through all the different plants and all the different things, and then kind of drops back down again. There is no filtration on this tank whatsoever.
No, that's it.
The only filtration is plants. That's it.
And as an aquarist, you can appreciate the two things that you want to get rid of are nitrates and phosphates. And what plants love to use as a fertilizer are nitrates and phosphates. So it's an ideal marriage of the two different hobbies coming together.
And we're also growing some wasabi as well, just as an experiment.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, we can't. Why not? So yeah, this is the future for the husbandry, really, in terms of aquaculture, in terms of kind of feeding. You can grow anything in there. We've grown tomatoes, lettuces,
chilies, cucumbers, peppers,
yeah,
capsicums. whichever you want to call them.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So this is the other side to the enclosures that I was just. So these are the slightly larger enclosures. This
Now-
one here.
I got a question for you about your enclosures. They're not all the same. Obviously, there's different species that you're keeping, but do you test out a bunch of different enclosures from like different companies? Because we don't sell enclosures.
No, so yes and no. We know from experience over the years whether a glass enclosure would be good for frogs rather than a wooden enclosure because of its moisture. You know, a frog or sort of amphibians and that sort of thing need to be sprayed and wet all the time. So a glass enclosure is going to be better. But when you start looking at an arid species, so like a desert, like a bearded dragon, we would use a wooden enclosure because they hold the heat better, and we're not spraying water in there all the time like you are with a rainforest species, for example. Some enclosures are better than others in terms of ventilation. So you can see this one I'm looking at right now. The silver trim down the bottom and the silver trim at the top just here. These have quite a cool airflow actually kind of built in. So air can get into here and then circulates, and air can get through the bottom and circulate. Whereas a traditional wood enclosure doesn't have that. They have vents in the back. And we've added some extra vents as well, just to kind of make sure we get that circulation. So yeah, this first enclosure here was our breeding holding tank for the tadpoles.
Yes, this was getting water changed daily. Obviously, we're using a VisiFirm heater. We've got a filter in there, a NuJet filter in there, but we're also using Nudorm Pro 10 lighting, and we've also got a Vento air pump on there as well.
The idea of this sort of paludarium enclosure, the idea behind it was we could have the tadpoles in the bottom, and then when they changed into frogs, they could come out, they could get onto the slate, and then they could climb up into the plants. And then we would take them from here and put them into the larger frog enclosure. So it was a way of allowing the tadpoles to develop and then kind of move on to the frog stage.
And it worked really, really well.
It did work, yeah. It did work. I mean, there was a lot of tadpoles in there. So yeah, water chemistry and water changes was a daily occurrence. So again, we move on to a chameleon enclosure, which we've just sprayed.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
hence the humidity on the glass. If we can find him for you. Right,
Victor?
so I can see him. This is Victor, you remember. So let's see if I can show Victor. Victor is. Where is he? It's a chameleon, I can't see him.
He was in the middle, so.
Can you see him there on that photo?
Yeah, I think.
This is Victor.
Yeah, watch your finger.
Okay, yes.
But Victor's old and grumpy. Bless him. He's kind of like me now. it's kind of like my spirit animal. But so again, this uses the black plant lamp. We've got the Nudorm Pro 10 in there for the plant growth. And then you've got the Eco T5 unit at the back, which is a zone 3 for this guy because he's a Yemen, so he's a zone 3. So some chameleons go into zone 2, some chameleons are in zone 3, so it all depends on which one. But yeah, so underneath there, he'll be getting the perfect amount of UV. And he's got the basking spot there for his temperature, angled slightly down because chameleons like to take the temperature on the side of them rather than on the top. So this is why this is an angle for him as well.
And what that'll do, that'll naturally mimic the sun, which obviously isn't directly overhead. It is actually at an angle. So they flatten their whole body to make the most of it as well.
That's cool.
So it's a more naturalistic way for an animal to bask that he's going to use to be parallel with the sun.
Victor's in the movie. He's not happy. We'll leave him alone. It's bedtime. It's bedtime. That's unusual. So this is an Aki monitor enclosure. He's normally sitting on that rock just there. And typical, just because we're talking to you on a nice podcast, he's disappeared to bed. So yeah, again, what we've got in here is a Eco T5 unit, zone 3 at the back. We have the Nudorm LED for the visible light. And in the middle there, if I can get in and show you, we have the new gold infrared unit. Let me see if I can get the iPad underneath. There.
Ooh.
So this is the brand new unit fixed inside the wooden enclosure there, run on a thermostat, so it's been completely temperature controlled in there. What the gold infrared unit is doing is providing infrared A and infrared B into the enclosure during the day and the night for that. So yeah, you can we do this in a various different size of wattages, 50 watt, 100 watt, 200 watt, and a crazy powerful 400 watt, purely designed for the large enclosures. So in there we have a 100 watt.
Yes, 100 watt.
100 watt in there. And I don't know if you can make out, but just on that, can you see the black dot? Oh, where's my finger? There. There's a black dot on the rock just there. That's the probe from the thermostat.
Oh.
So we've drilled the rock and put the probe just there. So as soon as that rock gets up to temperature, the gold infrared lamp will turn off or dim down.
Cool.
So it means that it's never going to get too hot for him. So that's set at the right temperature for the Accu monitor. So he basks there during the day. So he's getting his heat, his UV, and then so it won't get too hot because that thermostat will control the temperature for him. And then if he's too hot or he wants a break from the UV, this is when he can come away to a different side of the enclosure, even with the overhang here where there's no heat and no UV. So you have to allow the animals to have UV exposure, heat exposure, but also, they're like us. They like it, but they also need to get out of it sometimes as well. You have to allow that sort of control. This is our garter snake enclosure. So we've got a ceramic heater at the top, providing the ceramic, the heat there. And then we've got what have we got at the top? Same again.
Yeah, Eco T5.
Eco T5 at the back, Zone 2.
Zone 2, yes.
Zone 2 for the garter snakes. Now this guy is actually sticking his head out wondering what the hell I'm doing.
How cute.
So this is one of the smaller males of the enclosure.
Oh.
There's two
boys in there yet, and one lady in there.
And there's the other male.
Hi, buddy.
And the female is twice the size?
Yeah, she's a big lass.
Yeah, twice the size. Bless them. They just want food and bed now. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, it's that time of night.
The next enclosure is Northern Blue Tongue.
Northern Blue Tongue String, yeah, native to Australia.
So again, black 200 watt clamp lamp with a Eco T5 Zone 3. And this is an enclosure that that Peter had a bit of practice with. It's all resin and sort of polystyrene sort of background, all been coloured and carved to make it complete as a sort of natural as possible. So if I kind of zoom back a bit.
That's it. And also in the black dome there is the 125 watt mercury vapor as well in there.
And then this part at the bottom here is his kind of hideaway cave. So we can get away under here and then we can access it by lifting this piece up. So we can perform maintenance and that sort of thing. So yeah, same again, like the Accu monitor I just said, access to heat and UV, basking spot is just about there. That's the perfect UVI on this branch here that we kind of see him on. It's getting heat, UV, and then if he wants to get away, he can go away completely. But obviously, we should have turned the lights off a little while ago. Turtle tank with the vegetable filter. So yeah, we've got the filter kind of passing the water through this kind of plant vegetation system, and this has got the tank with the turtles in, and we can see there they are. Yeah, they're kind of wondering I'm going to feed them. That's all they care about. They're turtles. That's all they're looking at. So eco unit with the T5 light on the top, mercury vapor on the medium black dome, sort of clamped onto the side of the tank now, showing the clamp fitting. So yeah, everything's working pretty much okay. Down the other end, we have the paludariums, which we kind of set up before. But before I get there, this is something that we wanted to do, but we never got a chance in the UK. So this is a live food sort of
Rearing, holding, care centre.
so we're providing our insects with UV as well. So over the top of there is a 39 watt 3-foot eco unit over these 3 enclosures, and we've got 3 more, and then we've got some clean ones down the bottom. And what we do is we put the locust or insects or Mario worms into these enclosures, and then we stock rotate. So we feed these with insect food and some vegetables and some carrot peeling, some oranges, some cabbage or that sort of thing. We rear them, we feed these guys off, and then we kind of get some new ones in. And we always have them 1 week before we feed to our animals. The idea behind that is that we can gut load them. There's your, I think you call these super worms, but they're Mario super worms, that sort of thing. Sort of stuff that bearded dragons kind of go crazy for.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got some crickets down there as well, eating the insect food as if it was on cue. Yay.
And it's quite amazing as well. They actually love the UV because they actively bask under it, which is quite amazing.
Well, yeah, these locusts up here are clinging to the top to try and get as close to the UV as possible.
Now, if you're in the US and you're watching this, we're not allowed to have not allowed to have locusts.
But yeah, so in Europe we can feed locusts. We have 2 types of locusts. This is the black locust. And then we also have another one which is a lot paler, like a white and black spotted one. Yeah, animals go crazy for them. But I do apologize showing you these lovely, nutritious locusts when you can't use them.
Succulent, bearded dragon, gourmet food.
Oh, yeah. Our bearded dragon would eat 5 or 6 of these in one go. No problem at all. No problem. So, yeah, then we move across. There's the paludariums I mentioned. So this is now, 2 years old, that we moved from the UK. So we got all the fish tank at the bottom with the fish in there. Got some tiger barbs, some pentazoas, some glow lights, and a couple of catfish on the bottom. And then we've got the main paludarium with the New Dawn spots, which I will believe will be launched in the US in the next few weeks. Maybe kind of December, maybe January, depending when the container gets there. But these are E26 6,500 Kelvin spots of intense New Dawn plant growing lights. I mean, you've only got to look at that.
And bear in mind that this has been transported in the back of a van from one country to another. We didn't expect it to sort of stay as healthy and happy as it is. It bounced back very nicely.
And this is the
Open this up a little bit.
yeah, this is the other paludarium we had. Much smaller water volume on this. This was mainly for the plants. So yeah, it's only sort of 4 or 5 inches deep of water at the bottom there, but a huge amount of plants just growing crazy. And again, this is using, I can't even see the lights because the plants are in the way.
Yeah, it needs to cut back a little bit.
There we are. So this is using New Dawn Pro-10s. We've got 3 of them over this 90 centimeter enclosure. And it's, yeah, I mean, we have to trim this
every 2 weeks. It's about
you can
bin bag
see
every 2 weeks.
just the plants that were on the side here, just kind of growing up and trail across and So, but the exciting one,
new project,
is these 2 big bibs in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
So these are, what are they? They are in feet. They are 6 feet by 2 foot wide by 3 foot high. Yeah. And both the same.
The big
So
enclosures.
the idea, yeah. Well, they're both paludariums. So they've got 12 inches of water at the bottom, or will have. So what we're going to do is we've got a sump down there. So we're just in the process of drilling holes in the bottom of them. So that'll be an outlet hole. That's outlet. And then just here would be an inlet on the smaller one. And the idea that water will come up from the sump and then kind of go into the fish tank area. Peter's kind of put this large log in there as an idea of scale that we're kind of thinking. Yeah. So in this end's going to be dry. And they've got this large log which will get planted. And because you're going to be able to see this paludarium on 3 sides, so if I kind of stand this way, you can sort of see.
Oh, yeah,
cool. So when you walk in the room, you'll see it from that side. and then you'll see it from that side. So it's all going to get planted down the middle, and then you'll also see it from this side as well.
It's going to be quite a huge peninsula. That's what we're hoping for.
And then, so that's that tank. And then the next tank is kind
Another exciting project.
of my favorite project.
Yeah,
So
very
we can
exciting.
see there, we've just got the diamond drill bit on. We're just drilling holes now into the glass. We've just before this kind of drilled a couple of holes on this end. This is going to be an interesting one. This 6 foot enclosure
Yes.
is going to be for vampire crabs.
Yes. I'm so excited for this.
Right, but with a difference. So the actual tank across the bottom is going to get split into 3 different areas. So where my finger is will be a saltwater area. This will be a land, and this end will be fresh water. So a sump here for the fresh water, a sump here for the salt water, and then this will be the land in the middle. The idea being is that the crabs can go on the land, they can go into the freshwater area to feed, and then they can go into the saltwater area to spawn and to reshell or to grow. And then obviously I've got all this height to play with in terms of planting, and they'll be able to climb, and we're going to put a rock face of the rocks on this end. And we've got all the planting walls to go on the freshwater end. So yeah, we can see we're in the early stages. I haven't even got the sumps in there yet, but we've got the pipe work. We've got loads of fittings. That's what's all on the bench behind me. We've got all the bulkhead fittings and the pipes and the connections and the silicons and all the bits. So everything's ready. So yeah, we really are in the very early stages.
It's going to be a very challenging build, that's for sure.
So the reason for choosing this one in particular for the crabs is it's completely enclosed. So it's mesh topped, all the sides, so those little buggers can't climb out and get all around everywhere. But we're thinking of mixing the species as well. So we're thinking that we're going to try and put the 3 or 4 different colorations of the vampire crabs in there. So the traditional black and red, the vampire crab, but there's also the purple and yellows and that kind of thing as well. So yeah, we're really looking forward to do some cool breeding projects on these guys.
And obviously we'll do a lot of research before we actually purchase anything, so we make sure they're all compatible.
This is, I would say this crab tank is 3 years in the development,
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
more. We just didn't have the room in the UK for 12 foot of 2 enclosures. We just didn't have the space. So this is one of the reasons of coming to France, as we kind of said, in being able to kind of give us that extra room and extra space. And the rest of the room, yeah, I mean, we've got a nice desk, and we've got some plants, and then we've got the staircase that kind of goes up, and that upstairs goes to the test bay. So the testing facility, which unfortunately, it's all black up there because all the lights have gone off, unfortunately. Let me turn this camera back around so you can see Peter's lovely face. Well, not mine, obviously.
Wow.
But yeah, so upstairs it's the same size what we got here. And it's huge. So it gives us a huge kind of scope to do a lot more in.
Maybe
in
we can
terms
do.
of-
I'll
No,
say
go on,
maybe
sorry,
we can do a future podcast talking about the testing and I don't know how much you're able to show, but I think that's interesting to know what all goes into
It's-
each of the different products.
It's really surprising actually that one half of the people we speak to at consumer shows and the consumers and the retailers, they love the products, they love the displays, they want to know more about it. But the other side of the geeky side of it is about the testing. They want to know how, why, what, because we know that not everyone is unfortunately not everyone is testing. Manufacturers of the lamps, in China or whatever, they'll tell you what the lamp does, and maybe that's what you put on the packaging. But for us, until we can see it with our own eyes, with our own equipment, we won't put it on the box. So you mentioned the UVI charts that were on the side of the Eco T5 packaging. So they are our figures in our test facility that we took ourselves. We didn't farm it out. We did that ourselves. So those distances, those lamps, they were all burnt in. We took the average over at least 12 different models So 12 different lamps to make sure that, and they don't change much, but there is always 5 to 10% fluctuation between, it's also between the solar meters themselves, between the lamps, between the positioning. So yeah, we took that's why the packaging does say that there's a 10% tolerance for any inaccuracies. But yeah, we wanted to make sure that all the data we do, it's our data. We don't rely on any third party at all.
No, and it makes it a lot more accurate. And as Dale said there, because we are testing with different meters, even from the same band, like we've got, how many solar meters have we got? Was it 6, 12? I can't remember how many solar meters we own.
6.5R, which is the Reptile one, I think we run 12 meters at any one stage.
Because there is a slight tolerance in those as well. And we've even found if you're using a handheld device, even depending how tall you are, how far you lean over, how far your hand tilts, because it's got a photo cell on top of it, even a slight variation in movement will produce a different reading. So it is very important to get as many different readings as you can to compare the data to.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if the lamp is in a vertical position, but if your solar meter is just at a slight angle backwards and forwards, it can make a big difference. So, you have to take an average over that many lamps and that many fixtures to get the right data. So it takes a long time.
And also as well, on a linear lamp, any of the T5 lamps, for instance, you will find you'll get a different measurement in the middle of the lamp than you get towards the ends of the lamp as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite strange because you expect it to be the same over the full length, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So, you only have to be an inch one way or the other, and it could give you a different reading, which is why we like to do so much testing over such a prolonged period as well.
Yeah, and we've built over the years, we've built sort of a template kind of testing facility thing. So when that lamp is in that position, it sits here, so it's located in the same place. It sits on the bottom, it points in the right direction. So you just make sure you get constant data all the time. So yeah, that in terms of kind of where we are is the new reptile room for Reptile Systems.
Yes,
at the Aquarium Systems head office in France.
Very, very exciting.
It's we can do more.
No, we are definitely, obviously, don't tell anybody because obviously you're going to keep this a secret just amongst yourselves. We're going to try and squeeze more animal enclosures in here. We're going to be getting some aquariums. We should be right. Yeah, we're going to move stuff about, and we're going to get some more stuff in there as well. Mainly so we can do more real world testing. I think that's what we're saying, isn't it?
Real world testing is the only way. Having the test facility upstairs is great, but it's not real world. It doesn't get dirty. It doesn't get the animals aren't making a mess and doing things, and we're not spraying in the vids. So, for example, we use reverse osmosis water when we spray our animals. So no hardness or no lime scale can go onto the lamps. But in the real world, people aren't doing that sometimes. So when they spray, the reflectors can get dirty, the lamps can get dirty. So I recommend part of our kind of Q&A thing we did before was, once a month or every couple of weeks, take a damp cloth and undo the lamp and wipe the lamp down, wipe the reflector, all part of the maintenance. But in the test bay, that never happens. So it's accurate, but it's not real world. So you need to kind of have it in one place so you can make sure the lamp is okay for your animals. And then we move that downstairs to the animals. And then we get some real interesting results and how the animals react to a new lamp. Are they basking more? Are they basking less? Do they want to get closer or do they get further away to where you think they should be? And that's quite interesting when you kind of change the equipment. So just in as Pete said on this Halmira skink tank behind us, 2 weeks ago we put the gold infrared lamp in there. The behavior of those animals in 2 weeks
and marked difference
is completely different. We've had these animals in that enclosure for 4 years.
Yeah, I've actually had these animals for close to 9 years, and they have never been as active as they are now, which is for me as a keeper, that's quite uplifting as well to know that they're happier. Which is weird because we had a prototype unit for the gold lamp. We actually tested on this enclosure itself. And then taking the prototype one out, which was handmade and a little bit, bits and pieces, to actually using the production model, which is nice and polished. I've got a beautiful reflector.
Yeah.
Even the difference between that has been so remarkable. It's really made me happy.
Yeah, so the product was the same. The energy output, the lamp was the same, but the reflector was different. The reflector on our prototype wasn't the manufactured one. And it's definitely just that alone seems to have made a difference. Okay, it's in a slightly different position.
Yeah.
Maybe there's that as well.
Yeah,
Maybe the temperature's increased 1 degree, which can change everything inside the enclosure. So yeah, but whatever's happened, just by changing the equipment, the behavior of the animals has changed as well. So yeah, it's quite an interesting sort of time to see these kind of changes and build new enclosures. So yeah, it's been interesting. I hope it's interesting for you as well.
It is, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say the animals' behavior changes and you've had them for 9 years. It's like, I tell people all the time with fish tanks, like you have to know your animals, spend some time like watching them so you know what your baseline and your normal is. And that way, when you change something, you know if it's a good or a bad. And the same thing applies for all pets across the board.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it will be bad. Sometimes it will.
I think
It's not always going to be good.
We've changed a couple of things. We changed one of the basking spots over. I think it might have been on the Yemen.
Yes.
And he just disappeared. We didn't see him for like days and days and days. And it turned out that instead of putting in, I think it was a 75 watt lamp, we put in the 100 watt lamp. And it just took that temperature up just a little bit too much to make him happy.
And he wasn't on his basking spot. That was it.
Okay, what have we done?
For 3 or 4 days, he wasn't where he is at those particular times of the day, absorbing that heat. He didn't like it. It was obviously, as Pete said, it didn't work. It just too hot. So as soon as we changed it back to the 75, there he was.
Because you come in every morning, that's his morning routine. He gets up, doesn't make a coffee, goes straight under his basking lamp, turns on his side, gets nice and hot, and then he carries on about his duties of the day. So it was quite interesting to see that he wasn't getting up and he wasn't basking. And as you say, that because you've already got a datum, you've got a normal for what he's doing every day.
Yeah.
So the worrying thing is when you don't catch that behavior swing, how long can they tolerate then not basking at the right temperature? How long has that species or that animal got before some serious health implications can start to happen? Does it start to affect their metabolism? Does it start to affect their eating? If they then start going off their food, they're not getting to the temperature, now they're not eating. How long does this happen before you notice as a hobbyist that something's not right? So it's very important to see these things as well.
Which is, again, another reason for real world testing, because we attend lots of expos, lots of end consumer shows, and it's always nice if you do get a question from an end consumer saying, I've got this problem. You go, oh, have you tried this? Have you changed your lamps recently? Have you, and they go, well, I haven't changed my lamp. When was the last time you did change your lamp? It might be 2 years ago. So especially for a UV product, for example, because all the time that product's running, it's burning phosphor, it's burning off UV. So it might be the fact that their animal hasn't had UV for 6 months, 9 months. That could be another implication, which you need to be careful of, especially with things like metabolic bone disease and lower calcium uptake, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, a T5 lamp will light up for 3 or 4 years easily, but the UV will potentially kind of burn off to that zone. So if you've got a zone 3 animal, you buy the zone 3 light, that's the UV you want, that's the UV you need. But after 1 year, that lamp needs to change because that UV level will drop. And if it's not the right requirement for that animal, again, how long do you leave it before behavioural and animal issues start to happen?
And if you don't notice because you're not observing your animals a lot, especially for non-light emitting products, it's even more important. Things like ceramic heat emitters, heat mats, heat cables, because there is no visible to it. You go, oh, my animal stopped eating, it's not digesting very well, it's having trouble going to the toilet. And you go, what's your temperature? And people go, well, it's good. What is your temperature? Fit the whole fish question. So what are your parameters? Oh, they're perfect.
They're good.
They're good, yeah. My water's
I need
very
specifics.
clear. I can see my fish. The water's very clear.
Gene clear, in fact, the same colour as gin.
So it's those questions from the reptile world, which is the same as the aquatic, which I would imagine is the same for a vet with a cat and a dog. How is your animal? It's fine. Okay. So there's lots of things that we try to do in the real world as well. So that's kind of where we are right now.
It's cool.
It's pretty exciting. I have an idea for you guys, because you're talking about the bulbs will still produce light, but are they good? Are the UV bulbs good? I don't know if you have them over there, but here when you get an oil change, they give you this little sticker that goes in your windshield. It's like next oil change needed. Do we have any like stickers or something to put on your enclosure, like change your bulb?
It was tried. It was tried in the beginning on the packaging of the lamp. You could sort of tear off a small code, and you could write the date, and then you could put it by the lamp. But what I would like to do is go one stage further, but unfortunately, it hasn't got to that stage yet. Is to develop an app that would remind you. Yeah, you see that face? That's what everyone does.
Yeah.
So it would work. You log onto the app. You say what lamp. You say when the date you put it in, and then in 9 months' time, it would remind you, and then in 12 months' time, it would tell you need to do a lamp change and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's work in progress. There's ideas, there's things all the way along the lines, but I think it's been tried. I think it's been tried lots of times by different companies in the past, but yeah, the idea is it's all down to the consumer. I know a couple of stores that I came across in the past that when you buy a UV product for your animal, they would take your email address and they would put it onto their system, and they put it on their calendar basically, and in 1 year's time, 10 months' time, they would email you as a consumer to say, so 10 months ago, you a bit like kind of getting a service on your car or anything like that. They just send you a reminder. And I thought that was great. So it'd be nice to see, I understand it's not for every retailer, but to kind of see this reminding process it's only going to improve animal welfare. That's all it can do.
But I think what we were saying there, if you're doing regular routine maintenance, obviously keeping your eye on sell-by dates and stuff, make sure you're checking all your heating products, your lighting products, making sure your supplements are all up to date and they haven't gone mouldy or they've not got any moisture in them. There is, again, it's so much, but it is down to the individual people. So weekly maintenance, monthly maintenance, wiping down your bulbs, as Dale said, cleaning your reflectors, that could actually halve the amount of UV that you'll get just from limescale and dust.
And also the mesh over the top of your terrarium.
Yeah.
The vacuuming over the top of your mesh. Dust settles on the mesh, and all of a sudden the mesh has got small holes anyway. We know 30%, 40% UV can get stopped. Now clog those holes up even more and put some dust and sort of dirt over there. Yeah, just once a month when you're doing the house cleaning, just hoover the top of the mesh. Wipe the lamp. It will just give you more UV for your animal. Or use the Eco T5 unit Gen 2 and position it under the mesh, then you're good.
Yeah.
Just another piece. Just I say that.
Yeah.
Just add that one in there.
Yeah, so just that little bit of extra love makes everything better. That's what we're saying.
Yep. I like it. All right. Well, I think we should probably call it quits for this episode, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to show us around. Like, this is really incredible.
No, and I'm sure as we're doing some videos of the projects kind of moving, so we'll share that. And then we'll kind of tune in for another podcast, kind of get together in a month or so's time when it's the next kind of stage when the animals are in or it's starting to look good and you can sort of see the developments. But we'll send you lots of footage so you can put it together.
Can't wait to see it. And if you guys aren't already following our social media, both of our social media, so you guys, Reptile, I think it's Reptile_systems is your social media handle.
Right.
You guys always have like current up-to-date stuff. Like that's how I knew about the White's frogs and like all of the little babies and like current updates, watching them grow. It was so fascinating. And we try and reshare that stuff too, but ours is a slightly different market. Products that we have available might not necessarily be the same. So we do have different stuff on our page as well. Make sure that you are following along both of the pages.